Okay, so a little while ago, it's been probably a couple years, we posted some photos on social media of us doing the metal work on this arm, and it kind of went viral, at least our version of viral, because we were getting these really incredibly clean, super elegant edges, and I was kind of explaining how to get this done, and I thought it would be kind of fun to take a much simpler arm and show you how we get to this stage with something that's nowhere near as exotic. We've got this one here. It's getting ready to be finished. It's in the same arm here, but we're not going to go that deep because this is a many stage process. We're going to simplify it here. We've already welded the arm up, and you can see the arm is the welds are kind of overdone, and we did that for a reason. It was 2 passes to get to the stage where they're a little bit overbuilt. So we're going to take and show you how to do this edge and make it look like this. So assuming that not everybody has a belt sander, you could use a belt sander for this, but one of the main things that we need to do is grind the welds down parallel to the plates themselves. So we want to make this edge as sharp as we can with what we have here. And so what we're going to do, just because everybody's probably going to have a roll-lock disc in their shop, we're going to use a roll-lock disc. And what we do to make the roll-lock is we don't use the rubber. We actually put a die grinder disc behind it. You can put 2 if you need it to be extra firm, but we kind of use that as a hard block behind the disc so it doesn't flex. And so we're gonna grind this down, and we're gonna do it as clean and parallel to this plate as possible. So we're not gonna be kicking the roll-lock over or anything. We're gonna try and keep it really close to level. The discs always have a teeny bit of curve, so we're gonna lean on that curve a teeny bit, but we don't wanna dig any holes. You see, we only want to grind until the weld is just barely gone and we get rid of that little line. And as we're grinding like that, we want that line to go away. And that's it. So, you see, we're not sitting in any one spot and grinding it away. We're moving around, so we're not digging holes like right here, this little line. If I want that line to go away, I'm gonna sweep a couple inches to grind the whole thing down. So this is a lot like body work, where you don't dig holes. You gotta body block the whole thing down. So constantly moving, no holes. And we've already done the top here. So now we've got this kind of like meh edge. Let me grind a little bit more of this edge down here. All of this is going to get radiused out as well, so we end up with a clean radius inside of all of those. So don't judge my welds. They're overdone on purpose so I can cut them away. One thing you'll find is that when you're doing the welds, they're never big enough when you go over them with a single pass. You have to go a couple passes. So so from here, what we're going to do to make sure that we've got a nice flat edge here is I've got some die chem. So what die chem is essentially, I mean, they call it layout fluid, but what we're using here is, if you're a body guy, you'll know what a guide coat is. This is like steel guide coat. So it's essentially the same stuff that's in a Sharpie, but it's in a little felt pad applicator. So I'm gonna coat this whole thing here. Same with this top edge. And then we are going to clamp this in our vise. All right, so I got these files, and what I do is anytime I have a job like this, I just go up to Harbor Freight and I buy a handful of brand new files. Old school files that are like quality files, they're awesome. Don't get me wrong, they're great. But a brand new crappy sharp file is so much better for this than an old file that's awesome but isn't sharp. So we just go spend a couple dollars and do that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use this just like a block sander on a car. We're gonna block away the blue so we know where everything's high. So obviously as it's taken away the die chem, those areas are all high and the lower areas with the die chem still in them are low. So we're gonna block all the highs down until we meet the low. We're only taking off a few thousandths, so don't worry about the material thickness here. We use the same process we do if we were to be blocking a car. You don't just go straight in one line. You create an X out of it. Yeah, we got one edge done. We're gonna do the other edge the same way. Now this is why when I get the files, I get 2 flat files and 2 half round files, because we need the half round in order to do these little low areas, because this part's got a curve in it. All right, so now that we got this all knocked down, so what we have is this little edge that we need to finish with whatever amount of radius we need on it. In this case, it's pretty sharp. We got a couple areas that come to a really, really sharp point. What we're gonna do is we're gonna cut a 45-degree angle into the arm. All right, now that we got this thing clamped down really nice and firm, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna use a flat file down on this edge because it's not a big deal. We're gonna create a 45-degree angle across this whole thing and get it consistent, a consistent shape. And we're gonna use that line because where the 45 meets these 2 flat surfaces, it gives us a line that we can actually look at. We've got something that we can actually see with our eyeball. So we're gonna make that line, so we've got like a little bit under 1/8 of an inch running down this whole edge. Don't worry about these little tiny things, those will get knocked off. So we're gonna make this whole 45 try and look like that width. Okay, now that we can see the lights in here reflecting on that, we've got a pretty consistent line along that edge. It's a little teeny bit fat here. We can get super critical in there if we really needed to. We could use our half round in this trough. Clean that line up a little bit in there. But that's how we do that. So that means we've got the same amount of cut across that whole thing. So from here, all we need to do is just radius this top edge and radius this bottom edge and create the final edge. And that gives us a consistent groove that entire way down that we can't really do with a grinder. That's kind of the point of this whole thing is grinders are great and everything, but if you want that incredibly clean, crisp, consistent line like we have on this arm right here, This just can't be done with a grinder. That's just the reality of it. There's no two ways about that. So this is how we do that, is we get from here, now we radius this top and bottom edge. So pretty close there. We can, so in order to kind of knock down all of the artifacts and everything we got in there, we have a wiped out DA pad. It's still flat, but just kind of beat up on the edges. We got some old 150 grit paper on here. And then to finish it off, we use a little bit of some red scotch brite, some WD-40. Don't be afraid to get a little bit of elbow grease in here. You can even use some wet or dry sandpaper, some like 400 grit if you want to get really crazy. We can sand out those scratches and stuff. These will all come out in powder coating, but that other arm was originally done to have zinc plating, which is incredibly thin, so all these scratches would show up. It's actually transparent. So we went through all the trouble to make that super straight, but these arms don't need that. They'll get powder coated. But all the lines, the really crisp lines, will come out in the powder coating. So scrub it down with the Scotch Brite, get the furry metal out of it, wipe it down, and then there you have it. Really clean, elegant, crisp line. It looks like the part was machined that way rather than being ground down on a grinder. You got to be one hell of a grinder, which I feel like I'm a pretty good dude with a grinder, but I can't come close to what I can do with a file. You can see in the lighting there, we got a really nice clean line that follows that whole thing over. From here, you could literally block this down with a sanding block, just like you would body filler, and get all these scratches out if you wanted to, if it was something you're gonna go to the next level stuff with and candy over it or something. But that is how we get these really clean lines.